Thank you very much for being here. I'm Bill Terra, and I have the honor and privilege today to have a chat with my friend Sailesh Rao. Some of you may not be aware of Sailesh's work. He is the founder and executive director of Climate Healers, which is a very active organization in changing the whole conversation about how we approach not only the environmental issues that face us all, but also how we approach the issue of food, which is principal among those issues. And so I'm very happy to be here and have the opportunity to share this space with him. Maybe we can start from the beginning. Or maybe this is not the beginning, but
it's been 20
along
years.
the way, 20 years to get here. This is the Guide to Planet B, right? And I think a good place to start would be what's Planet B all about? What do you mean Planet B?
Planet B, it's a play on there is no Plan B.
Right.
You know, there was a book written by Mike Berners-Lee saying there is no Planet B. And I saw the title of the book like 2 years ago, and I said, no, there is a Planet B. So I told, I wrote a book called There is a Planet B first, which is basically explaining what Planet B is and why do we have to do this. And so this book is a guide to Planet B. It's about how do we do this. So I feel like this book completes my work as a systems engineer on specifying the new operating system for humanity.
Right.
So I think of Planet A as the current operating system for humanity. It's like it's like software that we use. So it guides us in how do we conduct our lives, what is civilization about. And if you look at all the systems that we build, we all build systems. A system is an organized framework for solving problems. And humans are very good at building systems because this is how we collaborate among even millions, even billions of us collaborate together. And that makes us an incredibly powerful species to the point where we are literally changing the life support systems of the planet. Okay? So the operating systems that we are using right now is based on just profit. So it's the capitalist operating system. Right. So literally, the education system is about profit. The food system is about profit. The governance is about profit.
And you talk in your book about how the fact that the system isn't fit for purpose, really, it doesn't really do what it promises to do. Then you have not only one crisis appealing, like we have global warming. You not only have another crisis, which is a political economic system falling apart. You call this a polycrisis.
Correct. Yeah.
And what gave you the idea of looking at it from that point of view? Like that it's not just one thing and one thing and one thing and one thing, but it's all of them together.
Yeah, it's the output of this operating system called Planet A. So if everything is designed around just the profit motive, you get all of these signals saying that it's violating the planetary boundaries. It's violating our freedoms. So basically, we have listed like 7 ecological crises, and climate change is only number 4 out of the 7.
Right.
Then the top 3 are loss of biodiversity, then chemical pollution, and nitrogen and phosphorus pollution. Then comes climate change. Then comes land use. So basically, ecosystems collapse. Right. And then freshwater depletion. And then comes ocean acidification. These are the 7 ecological crises. Similarly, there are like 6 ethical crises. I call them personal crises. And it's selfishness, greed, and apathy being normalized. So if you have a system in which we are rewarding greed, we should expect people to be greedy.
Yeah.
Right? So, but you have created a system like that. So why are we complaining that people are greedy?
Right.
So similarly, you have these, there are 6 different crises that are ethical crises, and there are 7 institutional crises like world hunger, maladaptive worldviews. There are these crises that you list, and you realize it's all stemming from the same operating system.
Right.
So the polycrisis definition helps us put our minds around all of these and say these are not separate crises that we have to address one by one. It actually, you have to just change the operating system. So planet A, switch it out and bring in planet B, or something like planet B. See, to me, when I propose a system transformation as an engineer, I have to show the feasibility of what I'm saying.
Right.
So to me, planet B is like is a feasible operating system that we can install today if we want to. Okay? And everyone would find themselves happier, I think.
Yeah.
Right? That's the intent, at least. Okay. Now, I'm not suggesting this is the only way to solve the problem. It's one way to solve the problem. But if I don't show feasibility of the system transformation, I haven't completed my job.
Right. Right.
Okay.
And so when you see all of these crises, I mean, one of the things that's most challenging, I think, from my own perspective, and my take on it has always been from the study of ecology, where everything is connected. How do we show people those connected spots, those connected lines? Right?
Yeah.
Because that's really the challenge, isn't it? Right? Because people look at one problem, another problem, another problem, and
Right.
it seems almost as if people become depressed or overwhelmed or anxious because they see so many problems and they try to block it out.
Yeah. Well, all of these crises, there is one thread that goes through almost all of them, is the food system.
Right.
It's amazing how the food system impacts everything.
Yeah.
Because you're hungry, you're willing to do anything. Okay?
Yeah.
And this is how children get abused
Right.
by rich people. So, but why are they in a system in which they're hungry? Why isn't the community taking care of them? Okay? Why is hunger being used as a way to make people do things that they wouldn't do otherwise?
Right.
So these are fundamental questions that we all have to tackle as human beings and decide on what kind of transformation do we want? What kind of life do we want to leave for our children and grandchildren?
Right.
So, see, the planet A to me is built around myths.
Yeah.
So we have identified like 7 myths in the book. And these myths are like the lenses through which you see the world, like rose-colored glasses or something like that, right? So you see everything through the myth. And these myths, we never really agreed to them. We just inherited them. And some of these myths may have been truths like 100 years ago or 200 years ago because we didn't know better.
Right.
But since then, we know better, and yet we still carry along with the myth because there are a lot of vested interests in promoting that myth and continuing that myth.
And how do you see the role of the internet in both creating that problem, and are there potential solutions in there?
Oh, the internet actually has been an eye-opener in that sense. Okay, yes, there are people using the internet to pass along more lies, propagating more lies, but it's also democratized storytelling. It's democratized the finding of the truth. So it allows us. So anyone can now, tap into any subject that they want to and go and study up and become an expert at it, okay? Because all the information is there.
I notice though that it seems like we have to be re-educated in terms of how we use the information we get from the internet, because what algorithms are doing is it's making it possible to track people and specifically hone information for that specific person.
Correct. Yeah. So you keep getting information that reinforces your beliefs, whatever beliefs you have. So the information that comes to you is designed to make you, amplify that and basically stay in the bubble. So this is why I consciously go and look for things outside,
Right,
outside the bubble. So, and as a systems engineer, that's my job. I have to go and read up look over the shoulders of other experts,
Right.
giants in their field, and see what they're saying and see if I can make sense and see patterns in which I can connect across multiple domains.
Right.
Right. That's my job, and that's what I try to do in the book.
It's
Right.
because it's a real re-education, isn't it? Because we have to almost learn how to reinterpret or interpret what's out there. I mean, I know
Right.
that, for instance, in the whole arena of food, the meat industry in America invests millions of dollars to hire influencers
hmm
to say that veganism is dangerous, or your
You-
feet will fall off if you
Right.
eat this way. And kind of
Right.
they make up stories and propagate them.
Yeah.
And so it's relearning, and I think that one of the things that your Planet B can be very, very helpful for is helping educate people in terms of what is that connectedness, right?
hmm
What is the root of that connectedness, so that we can see it when things are out of balance, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when things are out of balance, you will see mismatches
Yeah.
in the, your stories don't match anymore. So you get cognitive dissonance.
Right.
Right. So one of the number one myth I see is the protein myth,
Right.
okay, which is that 90% of Americans believe that protein is only found in animal foods. Now, you look at that one piece of information, and then you say, look at the other piece of information, which is that elephants just eat plants and they grow so big.
Right.
So, do they not need protein to grow? Are they different than us? Do gorillas not need protein? They're pretty close to us otherwise,
Right. Yeah.
right? So, you start asking these questions, and then you dial down and you see the science is already there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the University of Minnesota has measured like 11,700 foods or something like that. And they show that every plant food has every amino acid and has complete protein,
Right.
both essential and non-essential. Because animals are just collecting the protein from the plants
Yeah.
and putting it together.
Yeah. One of the things that, if I could go in a different tact here, you talk in your book about two concepts which are very interesting. One is hungerless, and the other is cool, right?
Mhm.
And maybe you could talk about hungerless first, right?
Yeah.
What's your vision about hungerless?
So, hungerless to me is about addressing malnourishment. So, it isn't just those who are calorifically hungry. A lot of us are malnourished. All of us, almost all of us are malnourished because you're not getting enough magnesium, you're not getting enough vitamin K or fiber for sure, right? So why is it that the food system is not able to nourish us properly? So I tracked that and I realized it's because the food system is not designed for that.
Right.
It's designed to maximize profit and is designed to make sure that the most exotic food is available to the richest person at any time.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So those are the two objective functions of the food system. So I said, okay, what if we design a food system in which its objective function is to nourish everyone? Can we not do that? And it's not that hard
No.
to design a food system like that. Okay, it's like it's making Marlene's food available to everybody,
Yeah.
or making sure that the Dr. Michael Greger's Daily Dozen is available to everybody.
Right.
And there's plenty of food on the planet for us to do that.
Yeah.
Now, if you did that, if you implemented something like that, that actually has tremendous ramifications for all the systems on planet A.
Right.
So every one of them will start collapsing. This is why you have to implement the planet B systems. You have to implement the governance system from planet B. You have to also implement the education system from planet B. So it goes through and transforms the entire system. So firstly, we all have to agree that it's a good idea for human beings to be nourished properly. We need to have that
It's
conversation.
a radical thought.
I mean, to me, it's radical that we are going along with a system that's malnourishing all of us.
Yeah.
And killing the planet in the process.
Yeah.
To me, it's radical to think that this system can continue for even the next decade.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's pretty certain that the food system is going to collapse one
Yeah,
way or the other, right?
yeah, it's
Just given the intricacies of the agriculture industry and the amount of
fossil fuels they use.
assistance that is looking at from the outside in terms
Right.
of not only subsidies but also the use of chemicals.
Hmm.
I think it's very interesting, this whole Strait of Hormuz thing. What happened is the nitrates
Correct.
stopped flowing, and that was almost a bigger impact than the oil coming
Right.
through.
Right. Yeah, nitrates and helium and
Yeah,
whole bunch of things got stopped.
yeah,
Yeah. So it's causing the system to literally crumble, and it's up to us to decide: are we going to resuscitate that? Or leave it in hospice?
yeah,
Because Planet A is either in hospital or in hospice.
yeah.
One or the other right now. And so I'm saying, please don't spend any more time trying to fix that. Let's
Yeah.
just build something new that works for everybody. Okay.
And that's I suppose that one of the most powerful tools for that is just consumerism or consumer interest, consumer engagement. Right?
Absolutely. As individuals, I actually don't call us consumers because that's
Yeah,
the
I know.
corporate way of
Excuse
talking
me.
about us. We are human beings. We are not
Yeah,
consumers, right?
yeah.
But as individuals, we have tremendous power. In fact, I was uh, thinking about this story in Orissa. It's in the chapter 1 of my book. Uh, this a group of villagers in India, in Orissa. They were very perplexed when I went to their village. They said, "We want to talk to you about something. Do you live in the city?" I said, "Yes, I live in the city." So let's explain to you what is happening. We had this middleman come and tell us to grow vegetables that he would sell in the city and give us some money for selling the vegetables. But he told us that the vegetables had to be clean, shiny, no holes in them, no worms should be eating the vegetables, and so on. And he gave us all this medicine to put on the vegetables as they're growing, so that worms don't eat them. So our question to you is, why do people in the city want to eat vegetables that even the worms don't want to eat?
Right.
And I was stunned when they asked me that, because I hadn't thought about it like that. Okay, and I realized they're so right, because what happens in the city is that if you get a basket of vegetables in the supermarket and there are a few of them with holes in them, we pick them out. We don't put them in our shopping cart.
Yeah.
So those vegetables get left behind. So our action of not taking those vegetables and putting them in our shopping cart sends a message to the middleman saying, don't bring those vegetables if they don't get sold.
Yeah.
So he tries to, cut it out of the supply chain itself. And the easiest way to do that is to put chemicals on the vegetables so the worms don't eat them. Now, he doesn't tell you that's what he's doing.
Right.
Because if he tells you, I'm poisoning the vegetables, that's why they're shiny,
Right.
you wouldn't buy them, right? So, and we have this deception built into the system.
Yeah.
So you have a system built on deception and then, domination. So these, in fact, 5Ds. These are 2 of the 5Ds. And because of that, we are actually doing things that cause our own food poisoning.
Right.
Unknowingly. Right?
Yeah.
So the only way out I could see is to create a system in which everything is open. Everything is open source. So the cost of cost of growing the vegetable has to be known to everyone. What is being put on those vegetables to make them grow has to be known to everyone. And then we choose what we are going to get. Right? So capitalism, with its competition and its secrecy and deception, fundamentally creates this system in which, even though we are tremendously powerful as individuals, our power is being channeled in the wrong direction.
Yeah. I guess that part of that is the whole thing with marketing and how you how you appeal to people's worst behaviors, right? And
Mm.
make them feel good about it. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I want to explore something else that's in your book, which is pretty. When I first met you, a couple of years, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And you came and had lunch with my wife Marlene and I. Uh,
Yes.
you were talking about a way of approaching the whole atmosphere problem
Mm-hmm.
with global warming, right? And you had a completely different take on it, and it was fascinating to me. And I don't know how many people have kept up with your work in that, but I think it's worth talking about for more than a moment, even
Mm-hmm.
the unique perspective that you have on climate warming and also that aspect of cooling, climate
Right,
cooling.
right, right. Yeah. What many people don't know is that every gas we put out into the atmosphere, almost every gas, either warms or cools. We have no choice in one or the other because every molecule has a radiation profile. Okay? So it's an electromagnetic spectrum in which it is going to gather radiation and reflect it out back. So when it gathers it, it could be in a direction and then reflects it out in all directions. Okay. So because of that, if the radiation profile is in the infrared region or ultraviolet region, infrared region mainly, it warms because the Earth is emitting radiation in the infrared region. This is all engineering, okay? Sorry, guys. And if the radiation profile is in the visible region, then it's a cooling gas. Why? Because it reflects sunlight back. Okay, so it's either trapping infrared radiation from the Earth or visible radiation from the sun. So we have been emitting a lot of gases. It's not just CO2, and the discourse is only about CO2. Yeah? And even within CO2, they have done all kinds of, putting their thumb on the scale to not count certain things, not count animal agriculture in the same way as they count fossil fuels. Okay? Now, as an engineer, especially as a systems engineer, I have to be in alignment with nature. Otherwise, whatever work I'm doing is going to be useless. So when I start, I always look at axioms. I begin with axioms that I can say are true, and then I build on those axioms to create models that work. Okay? So I begin with the axiom: CO2 is CO2. No matter where it came from, it has to be counted the same way. Okay? And secondly, photosynthesis occurs through the grace of nature.
Right.
Okay? We have no business claiming credit for photosynthesis. So what the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has been doing is actually claiming credit for photosynthesis for human beings and giving it as a gift to the animal agriculture industry.
Right.
I'm saying, what?
Yeah.
Who allowed this? Then I realized it was all settled in the 90s.
Right.
So there were guidelines decided in the 1990s, 1996 IPCC guidelines, in which they decided there were only 4 gases they have to consider: carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and halocarbons. Now, those are the gases we knew about in 1996. And then, we knew CO2 was the main one there, and they were putting the thumb on the scale for CO2. Since then, we have identified 8 other effects. There are 2 more non-methane volatile organic compounds plus carbon monoxide, and then black carbon, 2 heating effects. And there are 6 cooling effects. Carbon opportunity cost, sulfur dioxide, ammonia, nitrogen oxides, and organic carbon. Now, you don't even count the cooling effects anymore in the IPCC because they're still sticking to the 1996 guidelines. Why? Because they issued some reports based on those guidelines in 1996, issued the same in 2001 or 2010, and no one wants to go back and change those things anymore. So they're just stuck. So I call this the drunkard search principle. Yeah. You look only under the streetlight for the keys, even though you drop the keys in an alley, like far away.
Mhm.
Why? Because that's where the light is.
Right.
So that's exactly what's going on with climate change as well.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it saying, you have to count all the gases. You have to count all emissions. That's my third axiom. Emissions accounting must include all emissions,
Right.
not just 4 out of 12.
And do you feel that there's any motivation behind that? Right? Is there a, because we know that if something can be monetized, it will be monetized, right?
Right.
So this is a body of information that's been hanging around forever and being moved every year, one way or the other. What are the motivating factors behind that?
Well, there's a lot of money being made on electric cars and solar panels.
Right.
In fact, the richest person in the world sells electric cars.
Yeah.
And so it's in their benefit to tell a story in which it's only about carbon dioxide and only about fossil fuels. Okay, so you can monetize that. But if you say it's animal agriculture, which really is the leading cause of climate change, and now the truth is coming out, but if you tell people the truth, then it's our entire lifestyle that needs to change.
Yeah.
Because when you change the food system, you're changing everything. And back in 1992, when they first identified these environmental issues at the Rio summit, President George H.W. Bush from the United States, unfortunately it's the United States, our country.
I apologize.
Yeah.
It wasn't me.
Yeah. George H.W. Bush came to the Rio summit and he made a speech in which he said, the American way of life is not negotiable.
Yeah.
So that put see, of the 3 conventions that they signed at the UN in 1992, the UN Convention on Biological Diversity, the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, and the UN Convention to Combat Desertification. So there were 3 conventions signed. And the Convention on Biological Diversity has not been endorsed by 2 countries. Can you name them?
Israel and no, not Israel.
Israel has ratified it. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh. Ooh.
The United States of America.
Yeah, I got that one, right.
And the Vatican.
Oh, the Vatican. Oh, how could I have missed that one? Yeah.
So this is the spiritual and cultural impediment to solving the problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have to address that. We have to get them to sign it and come along, because when everyone signs all these conventions, and then we can sit around and say, okay, how do we actually solve this? But if there are 2 who haven't signed it and they're powerful actors, they are going to prevent it being sorted out properly,
right?
Looked at properly, right?
And that theory is not really. I mean, that's part of the American imperial theory from when we first landed on the continent, right?
Right.
The collective we, right?
Right. Yeah. So it's one of the institutional crises is colonialism 2.0 and slavery 2.0. So these are all crises that we know are happening, but it's just an outcome of the same system.
Yeah.
It's an output of the same system, the same operating system.
Yeah. We have to. The commercial forces that are there. That, I mean, for myself, I see those as one of the biggest hurdles, right? Because as you know, I'm sure, the present president, we thought George H.W. Bush was bad, right?
No, yeah.
Now we've got the real guy in there, and he's the most aggressively anti-environment president that's ever existed since Andrew Jackson, which is interesting because he's got Andrew Jackson's picture on the wall, right?
But actually, he's the president who is taking off the mask.
Yeah.
So until now, everyone has been pretending to be good while doing bad. He's taking off the mask and he's saying, "No, I'm bad. We are doing this. We are doing this horrible stuff." And then everyone says, oh my God, this is what it is. We don't want to be there.
Yeah.
And so it gives us a chance to actually solve problems properly.
Yeah. It brings the chaos up to the surface, doesn't
Correct.
it? Yeah. And
Correct.
so as Planet A falls apart, right?
Mhm.
It becomes more and more obvious to people who otherwise wouldn't even look at it.
Right.
You
Basically, whatever he opposes,
know?
look at it carefully, because that's where the solution is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he opposes, you know, clean energy. He opposes any restriction on meat eating or dairy. In fact, he wants whole milk in schools.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though people of color cannot even digest this.
Yeah.
Kids fall sick. Okay? So 60%, 60 to 80% of the world cannot digest milk. And yet we force kids to drink milk
Yeah.
in schools. So he's doubling down on it, right? So when someone does that, you look at the opposite.
Yeah.
And that's what needs to happen.
Yeah. He's, when I was talking to you the other day, you were talking about some plans that you have for next year and some plans for Seattle coming up. Would you? Is it too early for you to?
No, we can talk
that?
about it.
Yeah.
I'm basically saying that the poly crisis is so urgent that we need to address it so urgently that we need to declare an emergency,
Right.
okay? A global emergency, because this crisis can kill us. I mean, extinguish humanity. In fact, there are 15 different aspects of the poly crisis. Each one of them can kill us by themselves.
Right.
So given we have such a tremendous crisis on our hands, and we understand that now, we need to be taking urgent action. To me, it's like our house is on fire. It's like a 26 alarm fire, because there are 26 elements to the poly crisis. And the alarms are going off. We should stop behaving like bricks in the house, waiting for the flames to come and lick us, before we take action. We need to be like, with life. Anyone alive in a house that's burning will try to put out the fire. Okay? So that's the kind of urgency we need to have at addressing the poly crisis. And to me, hungerless is something that I think I can convince people that it's a good thing to do. We have plenty of food on the planet. Can we not feed ourselves so that we get all the nourishment we need and make it available for free? Because it's the job of the community to ensure that people have access to healthy food.
Right.
If you make that available for free and continue the same system, eventually people will figure this out. They'll come and start eating the right foods. And then, the fast food joints and all are going to go under.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how you begin. When you ask, how do you transition from planet A to planet B? To me, hungerless is the best way to do it. Okay? Hungerless and cool. So when you start eating more plants, when you start eating healthy foods that are nourishing, you release land back to nature.
Right.
Okay, because our animal foods are only giving us 12% of the food we eat in terms of total weight, and yet they're using 43% of the land area of the planet.
Right.
Because animal food is tremendously inefficient.
Right.
The actual numbers from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is that for every 1 kg of food we get from animals, the animal had to eat 39 kgs of food,
Right.
on average.
I think that's one of those things that people, when they hear that, not when they hear it, when they understand that, I think that's something that really shocks them.
See, but it is being massaged. The data is being manipulated to make it look like it's not as bad.
Yeah.
Basically, so what they do is they give you a grain to meat ratio.
Right.
Because the animal is not eating just grain. The
Right.
animal is eating a lot of other food too.
Yeah.
So they don't count the other food, only count the grain. Then they'll say it's 8-1 or 3-1. You say, okay, it's 3-1. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
In reality, it's 39-1 on the average.
Yeah.
On average.
Yeah.
This is why the animals are using 43% of the land area of the planet to give us just 12% of the food we eat.
Yeah. And you're not even factoring in the the produce that could be produced on the land if
on
it would
on the land. Yeah,
just be used agriculturally for plants. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
In fact, half of the cropland output. In fact, I think the latest IPCC report is saying 2/3
Right.
of the cropland output is going to feed our animals, not human beings.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you take all the cropland outputs and feed it to human beings, we have plenty of food.
Yeah.
You'll have plenty of food, and then we can then reforest on the grazing land today. So one of the first papers I wrote with Professor Atul Jain of University of Illinois is looking at the grazing land, identifying what forests used to be there on that grazing
Right.
land in 1800, and then calculating how much carbon can get sequestered if you just restore those forests
Right.
that used to be there in 1800.
Yeah.
So which is only about 200 years ago, right?
Yes.
And those forests, the seeds are still there. You know, a lot of them, the
Right.
seeds are still
Yeah.
there. So the forests are trying to come back, and we chop them every year and burn them
Right.
to prevent them from coming back. That's
Yeah.
how we are maintaining pasture land.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so it was only 41% of the land used to be forests in 1800. And on that, if you just restore the original forest, which we all have to get together and do, if you restore the original forest, you can literally reverse climate change.
And that's a good example too in terms of the polycrisis, because by even when you're cutting down the forest, that's one thing. But if you cut down all the trees,
Mm-hmm.
what happens is we see this where we've been living up in the Newark area. They've cut down all the trees, and every year they have to pump water out of the river to irrigate the crops.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason the water is in the river in the first place is because they've cut down all the trees, and so there's nothing to hold the water in the soil.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so you get this insane situation where you've got flooding in the winter, and then you've got to pump water out when it gets dry, and it's getting drier and drier every year.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you cut down all the trees, what happens is that you reverse the biotic moisture pump.
Right.
So there's an engineering term for what happens in how fresh water gets circulated in the atmosphere, and trees do a great job of taking water from the roots and then turning it into clouds above themselves.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so they actually get water from above the ocean to come over them and become rain.
Right.
So they're creating their own rainfall.
Right.
Okay, when you have a forest, it creates its own rainfall. When you chop down that forest, it reverses.
Yeah.
So the water from the soil goes up in the air and goes over the ocean and becomes salt water,
right,
instead of fresh water. Yeah. So, yeah.
So, would you like to hear some questions from your audience here?
Yes, I would love that. Yeah.
We'd love to hear any questions that people have. You've got a lot of information here. Right? Capitalism doesn't always provide everything that you want, right? And that it's kind of a democratization in the worst possible way of what's available, isn't it? Right. So if something's very popular, you can get it, but if it's not popular, even if it's a very healthy thing or a very ethically good thing to have, it's not available to you.
Right. Yeah. You bring up a very good point, because the system in Planet A is designed in which the suppliers cook up something and they try to persuade you to buy it. So they are spending $600 billion just to advertise to us, to make us think we need it. Okay? And in fact, I have a lot of engineering friends, right? So one of my engineering colleagues, he works with these people to figure out how to get rid of the 300 billion that's a waste. Apparently, half the ads are wasteful because people don't really react to those ads. So he's trying to figure out which of those 600 billion in ad revenue, in ad expenses, is wasteful. And I told him, why don't you study me as a model? Because if your model is correct, if you're advertising properly, I should get 0 ads. I don't buy anything. If I see any ads, your algorithm is not working right. There you go. We can all become like a cohort, right? That he could come and examine and see, are you getting any ads? Yeah. So that's the system we have. You see, it's not about giving you what you are asking for or meeting your true needs. It's about manufacturing wants and supplying those wants. Okay? It feels hopeless, but in reality, it isn't. There are so many levers. This is why I wrote this book. There's so many levers in which you can start installing Planet B protocols in your life. Think of Planet A and Planet B as two different operating systems. It's like having MS-DOS and Linux on your computer. So MS-DOS is an old, I don't know if you remember, MS-DOS is an old operating system full of bugs, and gives you blue screens all the time. That's Planet A. Linux is something that a lot of people sat together and developed, people contributed to it. So it was crowdsourced. And you can create a computer in which you have both of them. So we all run both Planet A protocols and Planet B protocols in our lives. All I'm doing is I'm naming it. I'm saying, oh, when you do this, that's a Planet B protocol that you're implementing in your life. So now you can start installing more and more Planet B protocols in your life, and pretty soon Planet A will become obsolete, or it may even collapse. So it'll have a blue screen and no one goes and tries to reboot it. You know what I mean? It is already happening.
Yeah.
That's what I try to point out in the book. It's already happening. So all we have to do is accelerate it.
That's kind of like it's just modeling the future, isn't it?
Yeah. Modeling the present of what's going on, naming it first. So once you name it, you say, aha, that's what I've been doing. I didn't realize I was installing a new operating system in my life. I didn't know it either. You see, when I started, I went vegan in 2008. And when I did that, I didn't realize I was installing a new operating system in my life. But that's what I was doing. And very soon after I went vegan, I became a minimalist. I didn't even want to buy anything anymore. So I stopped consuming, so to speak. I created what is, I call it the buy everything day, which is I only buy on that one day. And all other days, I make a note. I may need this, I may need this, I may need this. And at the end of the year, when I look at that list, I cross off most of it. I really didn't need it. Right? So it's about walking out of the system and creating something new that works for everybody. The system always has means of stabilizing itself and perpetuating itself. So I identified those, the means by which the system stabilizes and perpetuates itself. So you know that that's what's happening, and you have to now blast into it. And then offer the solution of hungerless that we all have to agree on. It's no longer okay to starve people in order to make them do things that they wouldn't do otherwise. It's no longer okay to deceive people into eating food that makes them sick. Okay, so we have to get the education out. It's like a blast into people and say, here is a one-day course you can take that will tell you the truth, and then you can go verify it. And that's the only way I think we can overcome that, because otherwise they're so powerful.
Yeah. And it does change all the time. And I think one of the problems is that if it sees that people are moving in one particular direction, it will make an apparent change. In other words, it'll change just enough to satisfy you for a short period of time. The food industry particularly is they love to make new products. And so when they found out that vegan food's becoming more popular, when Marlene and I go to the market now, the section that has vegan food is getting bigger, 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 bigger. But 99% of it is junk. But it's junk to make people feel good. Oh, look at all the vegan food. It's just a bunch of junk. It's ultimate processed food.
Yeah, right.
So it makes some people very happy. Oh my goodness, we've got this good food. And well, you don't have good food. You're getting played. Right?
Yeah,
it's an illusion. Huh?
but the healthy food is there in the produce aisle
Yeah.
all the time. Yes. So today I went to two schools. I mean, like two classes in one school, right? And they're open to hearing this that there is a way out, because there's a lot of climate anxiety among the younger generation right now. So they've been hearing all these horror stories about what's going to happen to the world, and they want to know that there is a way out. They're hungry for this kind of solution, right? So we have to go and get through the teachers, and so we have to make friends with teachers and get them to invite us so we can go and speak to them. Bill and Marlene went to school today as well.
Yeah. Two
Yeah.
schools this week. Yeah.
Two schools this week.
Yeah.
And they teach the children how to cook also. Okay. That, today we had, I loved the first class where we all went and did plank together, because they wanted to see are vegans strong. And when they all, couldn't hold the plank longer than me, they all came and shook my hand saying, "Hey, we all have to put our heads together to make it possible for everyone to transition to Planet B as quickly as possible." Now, Planet A, it's based on growth. Okay. And there are signs that that growth imperative is going to collapse, because it's not possible to grow when energy is held back. So when it collapses, I wish they wouldn't try to revive it, fix it, do the right thing, so that you can all transition to Planet B and be there 100% of the time. Yeah, the same dissonance you're talking about, the teacher had. She came and told me, because I wrote an article on what are we teaching, and it's a blog I sent out last week, and she read that and she said, "You expressed my frustrations about the system, but then how can I overcome the frustrations?" Well, bringing you in and getting the kids to taste of what Planet B would be like. So in her capacity, she was able to do whatever she could to make amplify Planet B and to help the transformation happen. So we all have to think, so I have a section there, and what can you do in an institution that you belong to? How can you influence that institution to transition to Planet B? Okay.
I think we have time for one more question. Oh, come on, it's got to be a good wrap up here, right? We're gonna tie it all up in a package to put a bow on it.
Well, what about insects? What do vegans think about insects? There are a lot of very interesting projects. They won't take up as much space, as much land as animal husbandry.
Yeah, but do we have to get to the point where we have to eat insects? We don't need that. There's plenty of food on the planet, and the insects are already being impacted by our chemical pollution. They're dying in front of our eyes. Okay, so we need to bring them back, but restore them with nature. As opposed
the next cows will be.
Yeah. No, we don't need them. Basically, when we talk about insects or alternative protein, alternative meat, and things like that, we are propagating the idea that protein only comes from meat or some living animals, something that moves, as opposed to plants. So we're propagating that idea. And we need to eliminate that idea first. Protein is not even a macronutrient of interest to human beings, meaning there's plenty of it in the food we eat. So Dr. McDougall said, if you eat enough calories, you'll get enough protein on a natural diet. And if you eat enough calories, you'll get enough calcium on a natural diet. So he says they took two of the nutrients of the least concern for human beings, and they're making us destroy the entire planet for those two nutrients. That's the absurdity of what we are doing today. Right? So
save the insects.
Also.
Stop the 10-story insect farms that they were planning.
Yeah.
Somebody designed 10-story insect farms. You get all these. You can get cockroaches. Cockroaches are supposed to be really good, very, very high in protein, right? And
We don't have to eat that. Please.
But if we got more insects, we'd have more on our windscreens.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing because I went to a sanctuary that basically the forest had been restored in my native place in India. And it was, at night, it was so full of insects.
Yeah.
And the insects avoid me. You know, they don't come and sit on you. It's not their interest. They were going where they want to go. And that's when I realized how rich life was before we, started messing with it. Yeah. Last question from Jesse. Lab-grown meat. Yeah. There's a section there on that. Yeah. Yeah. I consider it to be an invalid goal, meaning if you look at the numbers, first of all, it begins by with the hypothesis that you need something like meat in order to thrive, which is not true. I mean, you don't need that to thrive. You can thrive without it, right? So, and a lot of people can't even distinguish between plant-based meat and the animal meat today. So why are we doing lab-grown meat? Send the message that you need meat. Yeah? And so we have to create meat in some way or the other. Now, in lab-grown meat, what do you have to do? You have to create the equivalent of the immune system of the animal. You have to create the equivalent of the waste system of the animal, digestive system of the animal. All of that you have to create with machines, with fossil fuels. And all this energy and mental power we are putting towards making that, we should be using it towards restoring the planet.
Yeah.
So that's what I feel about it. That's what I wrote there. Yeah. So there is a goal validity test in the book, and that says if you specify a goal, you can run the goal validity test to see if it's a valid goal that you should be working on, and it helps you sort of hone into what you need to really put your energy towards.
So with that, thank you, Sailesh. Right, what a wonderful evening, and thank you all for coming and participating. And we'll see you later.
Okay.